Okay, so I want to welcome everybody. And as always, thank you for coming in for the tefillas. Thank you for this beautiful group who shows up all the time with the most caring for Am Yisrael. And of course, thank you so much to the speaker who comes in for us, these amazing women that we love, we want to support, we want to show you how great you are and what you do for Am Yisrael and your teachings. So Yaffa Palti, thank you so much, Yaffa. From Brooklyn to Israel to Mexico City to San Diego and now Miami. Mrs. Yaffa Palti has been actively involved in community affairs, teaching, lecturing, and has led challah bakes and self-development retreats for thousands of women across the US and around the world for many years. Yaffa is also a much sought-after public lecturer known for her charisma, depth, and humor. She is often compared to a ray of sunshine. It's absolutely true. Transforming any environment she encounters into one of warmth and light. As a speaker, Yaffa lectures on many diverse topics, each one inspirational, motivational, and transformational, all profound, enlightening, and unique, and filled with joy and humor. Yaffa comes from a Torah-observant background and was raised in a home infused with chesed and unconditional acceptance. Wow. She is a singer, songwriter, and often blends together her lectures and melodies. Yaffa has also been teaching college for 2 decades, and she now educates future college teachers. She is a trained educator, life and relationship coach, as well as a certified addictions and substance abuse professional. I tell you, I read these biographies and I'm like, wow. So thank you so much, Yaffa. I'm going to take myself off now and I'm going to give you the floor. Thank you so, so much.
Hi, Nomi. Thank you for that. It's such a pleasure to finally be here. It's been a while since I've connected with the Nishmat group over here on the Zoom. So I'm really, really honored to be here again with all of you. So thank you. I want to give a special shout out to the 2 people who have their cameras on. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm going to challenge everyone here. Oh, beautiful faces. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love to see your faces. Don't be shy. I know you're busy. You're in the middle of things. Unless you're in the shower, turn your cameras on. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. When the cameras aren't on, I feel like I'm talking to a big chocolate bar. You know, it's just like the black boxes. I mean, it's delicious, but like I would love to see your faces. So good morning. Well, for me, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is around the world for all of you. I'm so happy to be here with you this morning. Thank you for turning your cameras on. Now I can see who I'm talking to. Okay. So many of you are in Eretz Yisrael right now, and we're all familiar, obviously, with what's going on. Many of us are not in Eretz Yisrael right now, and we try our hardest, of course, to connect as much as we can. And I think that we are all connected. We all feel it in a tremendous way. We feel the matzav, we feel the situation, we understand what's going on. And, you know, I have relatives fighting in Israel right now. They're not in the IDF. They just don't like each other. No, I'm kidding. I also do have soldiers. I also do have relatives fighting in the IDF. And I think we can all connect in a very, very big way, whether we're there and we feel it physically, whether we're not there and we connect emotionally. And I think it's just important for us to understand that we, the Jewish people, we're going to win this war. We're going to come out of it stronger. We're going to come out of it with the Geula, hopefully, if that's Hashem's will, and if we are Zocha for that. And we know we're going to win this war. How do we know this? How can we confidently stand up and say, we're going to win this war? Because we know history. And this is not our first rodeo, my friends. We've been here before, right? This is not the first time that people have tried to annihilate us. People have tried to kill us. People have wanted our demise and our destruction. No, this has happened many, many times. How many big, huge empires have tried to destroy us? And yet, where are they? Where are they now? Let's talk about that for a second. We just finished Hanukkah. What were we celebrating on Hanukkah? Where is Antiochus right now? Where is Paro right now? Where is Haman right now? You know where they all are? They're in Wikipedia. okay? And we're the Jews. Do you know where the Jews are? We created Wikipedia, okay? Along with every app that's on your phone. That's who we are. And here's the cool thing. Not only did we beat our enemies, but we get to eat our enemies. That's right, okay? Haman, we turned him into a delicious hamantash. Antiochus, we turned him into a latke, or even a sufganiyah. Paro, we turned him into a matzah ball, right? These delicious carbs, we get to eat those enemies. So now, ladies, here's our job. I'm going to give you all homework before we even start. The homework is we got to figure out what is going to be our victory food when we win Hamas. Okay, I don't think it could be hummus because I think it needs to be carbier, like more sugar, more oil, I don't know, something. Let's figure that out together, right? What is our victory food going to be? Because we know that we are in it to win it. The Ezes Hashem, we are the power of the women that are here, the power of the unity that we are experiencing right now. That's our secret. What's the secret to our immortality? How does it even make sense that we're still here? How does it even make sense that all those great empires no longer exist? And yet here we are. So we know that the main secret is our Torah, and the Torah that helps us understand that we are so much more than just a body, but we are a soul. That's what the Torah teaches us. We have so much more depth to us than just the superficial human that we are as a body, but we're a soul. And we have depth, and souls connect with one another. We were hardwired to form connections in this world. That's what we were born to do. This isn't just some psychobabble like, oh yeah, we're be friends. This isn't some weird heebie-jeebie, let's all hold hands and sing and dance, right? I think, by the way, I see some comments in the chat. I'm going to get to them soon. I just don't want to lose my train of thought. This is science. This is biology. We are actually, literally hardwired to make connections in this world. There have been studies done where they followed people around for 80 years. This is one particular study that I have in mind. They followed the same people around for years. They started when they were in college. They went till they were about 80. And the results of the study were astounding. They wanted to see who has the happiest life. How could you be happy? And they have the results of that study was, and by the way, they have been following people from all different walks of life and from all different backgrounds and all different ethnicities, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different races, different everything. And there was very, very clear result. The people who had the happiest lives, the people who had the healthiest lives, and even the people who had the longest lives were those who had intimate connections in their lives, whether it was with their spouses, with their children, with super close friends, people who cherished relationships. And that is our mission in this world. We're here to create relationships. Three main categories of relationships: relationship between the people around us, right? Creating friendships and family, the relationship between us and Hashem, and the relationship between us and ourselves. Those are the relationships that we are here to connect with. Now, here's the thing. Our topic for today is bringing the light in the darkness, or however they phrased it. So I want to talk a little bit about what that actually means and how can we understand that in a practical way. So I'm sure if I would ask you, let me ask you, how many of you, and don't be shy, okay? We're already friends, don't be shy. How many of you over the past 2 months have felt a little bit afraid to be Jewish, especially those living in the States? I felt a little bit afraid to be Jewish. You can raise your hand if you felt that, right? I think many people did, right? Now, raise your hand again if over the past 2 months you felt prouder than ever to be a Jew. And you can raise your hand twice. Isn't that amazing? Many people raised their hands twice. What? Why? How could that be? How could I be afraid to be Jewish? And I can also be proud to be Jewish. And we felt it so much over the past 2 months. And I'll tell you why. Because as Jewish people, we have the capacity to hold multiple, diverse, and even opposing emotions simultaneously. We can hold so many different emotions at the same time. We can be happy and we can be sad at the same time. That's possible. What's my proof of this? Let's talk about a Jewish chuppah for a minute. The Jewish chuppah, the moment of immense joy, that moment of incredible bliss and ecstasy, happiness, that moment standing under the chuppah. And yet what do? We break a glass. Because in this moment, you're feeling that tremendous joy. Let's stop for a minute and let's remember the Chorban Habayis. Let's remember that we are in Galus. Stop for a minute and have that sadness. We could do both. We can be happy and sad at the same time. And you know what else we can be at the same time? We can be scared and we can be brave simultaneously. Because what's the definition of courage? Courage doesn't mean that I'm not afraid to do the thing. Courage actually means that I am afraid, but yet I'm going to do it anyway. Even though I'm afraid to do it, I'm going to do it anyway. So we can be scared and we could be brave at the same time. You know what else we can do at the same time? We could have emunah. We could have emunah, bitachon. We can have faith in Hashem. And we can still have questions. We can hold both simultaneously. It's not a contradiction. And, I'm going to share with you a game that I created and that I use almost every day of my life. And I'll tell you, I don't have time. I wish I had more time to speak with you right now, but they only gave me 30 minutes. But I would love to share a little bit more about my personal journey, but I'll tell you in just a nutshell so you'll understand when I created this game, and I want to share it with you. So I'm American. I grew up in New York. I see my sister there. Hi, Leah. I come from Baruch Hashem, a large family in New York. I'm one of 10 biological siblings, and we also had 8 foster siblings. It was quite a story. My parents were pretty incredible people. They took in kids from abused families, and it was really amazing. I learned how to dance waiting online for the bathroom. Okay, so it was really busy, really hectic, really fun. And I've had my own journey as well. Okay, I was homeschooled. Well, back then they called it expelled, but semantics. So I did go on a journey of being in 4 different high schools, which is a whole story itself for another time. But I got married to my husband. So I'm this regular Ashkenazi girl from New York. I married my husband, who was a Sephardic guy from Mexico. Okay. So there were a lot of adjustments in that marriage, not only the regular adjustments that everybody has, but there were cultural adjustments, there were custom adjustments, there were so many different things. And we got married and moved to Israel, where my husband studied for 7 years, getting his smicha. He became a rabbi. And after that, we moved to Mexico, where he was from, to teach Torah there and to bring people closer to their heritage. Okay. So that's in a nutshell. Now, when we decided to move to Mexico, I was so idealistic. I was 27. I had 3 kids, and I was, super idealistic. I'm like, Mexico, of course. I love tacos. Let's go. All right. So I get there, and there was a lot more than tacos I had to deal with. There was huge culture shocks, and I didn't speak a word of Spanish. Okay, not true. I knew 1 word of Spanish. You know what I knew? Cucaracha. From the song, La Cucaracha, La Cucaracha. That means cockroach. That was my word. Okay, that's all I knew. And so there was language clashes. There were culture clashes. It was not an easy experience for me at all. And again, I can't go into detail. I could really speak for 2 hours on this topic, but I'll just suffice it to say that in addition to, the difficulty most people would have, I had an extra addition to that because I'm an extrovert and I love people and I love connecting with, not just I love it, I need it. And there was no one that I can talk to, and there was no one that I could connect with. And I really felt like a social butterfly who had her wings cut off. I know that sounds so dramatic, but that's what it was. It was very, very, very difficult for me. And I was the Rebbitzin of the community, and I had to just smile at everyone, and I had to invite them for Shabbat meals. And I did. And we had a whole Shabbat table full of guests every week that I cooked for and served for and cleaned up after. And I sat there at the table, and I didn't understand a word that was going on around me. It was all in Spanish. And I was just my husband's little trophy wife, just smiling. I had no personality. It was really, really difficult. So I went through a very delicate emotional state when I lived there. And it was very, very hard for me. And I tried not to let it show on the outside, because first of all, I wanted my husband to do a good job. And how can he do a good job if he knows his wife is at home crying all day? So I didn't let him see, exactly what I was feeling. And I tried my best to go out and give classes, but all of my talents required the use of the English language. And I didn't have that. So I used to have these conversations with Hashem all the time. Like, what do you want from me? You gave me all these talents and strengths, but now you're not letting me use them. How am I supposed to serve you properly? How am I supposed to do what I'm supposed to do? Until one day I had this epiphany. Okay. And this is what was able to pull me out of my funk that I was in, to get me out of that rut that I had fallen into, which lasted a few years, by the way. I was in that delicate emotional state for a few years, 3 or 4 years. And, I don't know how much okay, I'm going to go into it as much as I can.
No, Yaffa, go. Don't worry about the time. Just go.
Yeah, just go. We're all here. Okay, fine. Okay. So what happened was, it's an amazing story. And it really helped me with a mindset shift that was so necessary and so needed. So I shared with you a little bit about how I was feeling, and a little bit of my tefillah to Hashem, which sometimes was not so much of a tefillah, but more like an accusation. I'm like, Hashem, really? Like, why did you do this? I don't understand. You gave me these talents. You gave me these strengths. You gave me these needs. You gave me all these things that I'm not able to use. So I don't understand what you want from me, right? That was my mindset for a while. And one day, now this is going back, this was in the year, I moved there in 2005. So this is, let's say, 2008 or 9, probably 2008 at this point, okay? And I received an email from someone, maybe 2007, 7 or 8. I received an email from someone. Now, this was before social media. So there was no Facebook yet. There was no, for sure, no Instagram. There was nothing yet. But there was email. So I received an email, and this was from a friend of mine back in Israel. And it wasn't a personal email. It was a mass email. But still, I was so excited to get it. And I opened the email, and it said, a certain friend of ours was unfortunately very sick. And in the merit of her refuah shalema, the email was requesting if we can all have a tanis dibor, which means I guess literally to translate as a fast of speech. When you have a fast from food, you don't eat for the day. This is a fast of speech where you don't speak the entire day unless you are davening or learning Torah. Only words of Torah and prayer. Other than that, no speaking. This is to just allow people either, to prevent them from speaking Lashon Hara, or to just connect with Hashem that day on a deeper level. And that was the email. Can you all do a Tanis Dibor for the merit of the refuah shalema of this and this friend? When I read that email, I burst into tears. I started crying, and I said, everyone just make sure you're muted, okay? I just started crying, and I said, don't talk to anyone today. I haven't spoken to anyone in 3 years. I said, this person should have a complete refuah by now, right? And it was so hard for me. I'm like, it's so easy for me not to speak to anyone today, because I never speak to anyone. But as soon as I got over that, I had an idea. I said, whoa, 1 second. Maybe I could connect to the world through email. And I had this epiphany that now everybody does, but back then nobody did it yet. I said, maybe I could send around a weekly Dvar Torah on the Parsha through email. And that's what I did. I think, as far as I know, I was probably one of the first people to do it. It didn't exist yet. And I said, okay, I'm going to start this week. I have this email list of all my old friends and family and students, and I am going to start my Dvar Torah this week. Well, that week was Parshas Lech Lecha. And that has since become my favorite parsha, because I was reading the parsha, and we all know the famous words, Lech Lecha, the famous story of Avraham Avinu. And I read his story, and I read Lech Lecha. Hashem said to him, Avraham, go, leave everything behind, leave your past, leave your friends, leave your family, leave your language, leave your food, leave your city, and go to a new place and start anew. And I was reading that, and I was like, that's me. Like, that's me. I'm Avraham. He's me. Like, I resonated so much with this. And it was so empowering to read that Avraham Avinu did this, even though I knew deep down, but this time it like hit me in such a real way. And I read the parsha in depth, and I got to the end of the parsha, and I recognized something that I had never seen before. Now, don't forget, I was like 29 or 30 at the time. I've been learning the parsha for 25 years, 30 years, close to 30 years. And I have never noticed this before. Do you know that the words Lech Lecha are actually written twice in that parsha? The first time in the beginning, which is the one that we're familiar with, the Lech Lecha, my Artzecha, leave your land, leave everything behind, and go to the place that I am sending you. And the second time Lech Lecha is mentioned is when Hashem told him to bring his son Yitzchak up to the Akedah to sacrifice him. That's the second time it's mentioned. And that's when it hit me. I said, what is the difference between these two Lech Lechas? And then I realized that the first Lech Lecha is Hashem telling Avraham to leave his past behind. Leave everything you knew, the way you served me in the past, the way you lived your life in the past, leave all that behind and move to the future. But the second Lech Lecha was a curveball. That was when Hashem said to him, oh, Avraham, you think you're supposed to live your life in a certain way. You think you have a certain future planned for you. But now I'm telling you to leave your future behind. Leave your future plans behind. The first Lech Lecha was telling him to leave his past. The second Lech Lecha was telling him to leave his future. You thought your son was going to be the continuity of the Jewish people. This was going to be your whole future. No. Now I'm telling you to sacrifice that son. Isn't that powerful? Right? So when I read that, I couldn't believe it. I said, that's what Hashem is telling me. First, he told me to leave my whole past behind. And I did that, and I did it happily, even though it was hard. And I said, Hashem, okay, I'm going to do this for you. But now Hashem threw me a curveball. And he said, no, Yaffa, now I want you to leave your future, the things that you thought, the way you thought you were supposed to serve me. No, now I'm teaching you to serve me in another way. And that's when I stood up and I put my hands on my hips. And I said, really, Hashem? Game on. I am here for the challenge. And that's when I was able to have this mindset shift. I was able to say, okay, I thought I was supposed to serve Hashem in a certain way. I was going to serve Hashem on my terms. But now Hashem was telling me he wants me to serve him on his terms, through the life that he is giving me, through the places that he is putting me in. And I needed to learn to serve Hashem on his terms and not on my terms. And that was the moment I created this game for myself. And this is a game that's called Truth or Dare. Now, I know what you're thinking. Many of you have played that game at your 7th grade sleepovers, Truth or Dare. This is a different type of Truth or Dare. And I'll tell you what this is about. Truth or Dare means I am able to hold on to the emotion that I'm feeling, but at the same time, I am not allowing that emotion to become the compass by which I navigate my life. For example, I started telling myself when I woke up in the morning, I said, the truth is I'm lonely, but I dare myself to go make connections anyway. The truth is I'm scared, but I dare myself to be courageous anyway. I dare myself to do the thing anyway. The truth is I'm afraid, but I dare myself to believe anyway. The truth is I don't feel qualified, but I dare myself to go after it anyway. And this is how we're able to hold on to these emotions and even these opposing emotions, but not allow the negative ones or the fearful ones to navigate our lives. Because going for something anyway doesn't mean you're no longer afraid to do it, or doesn't mean you no longer feel that difficult emotion. It means you feel it, and it's okay to feel it, but you're going to do it anyway. I said, I am not going to allow myself to be a victim of life. I'm going to feel what I feel, but I'm going to get up and I'm going to do it anyway. The truth is, I feel sad today, but I dare myself to be happy anyway. That's the mindset of truth or dare. And you know what? Sometimes having faith, sometimes having emunah and bitachon is a dare. It's a dare. Sometimes we have to tell ourselves, the truth is I'm scared, but I dare myself to believe in Hashem anyway. I dare myself to trust that Hashem knows exactly what is best for me. That's truth or dare. The truth is, my heart is broken, but I dare myself to love anyway. The truth is, I'm grieving, but I dare myself to get up and go to work anyway, or to get up and go to that social event anyway. I dare myself to show up in my life with all my broken pieces, with all the things that are difficult for me. I dare myself to get up and do it anyway. That's the game of truth or dare. And that requires a mindset shift, perhaps, right? Of allowing ourselves to feel the thing, but not letting the thing control our minds. And that is, I think, what a lot of us are experiencing right now, because we have a choice with everything that's going on right now. And of course, this is for everything in life, but specifically with what we're going through right now as Jewish people around the world. Every single story, everything that's going on in the global world and in our personal individual lives, in every single story, there is a villain and there is a hero. That's how stories are. There's a villain and there's a hero. But in every story, we can choose to focus on the villain, or we can choose to focus on the hero. That's our choice. They both exist. And again, we can hold simultaneous emotions if we want, but we can choose which one is going to navigate our lives for us. Which focus? Where's my focus going to be? Which feeling, which thought am I going to allow to be the compass that will navigate my life? The villain or the hero? And, we watch the news, or some of you who live in Eretz Yisrael probably feel it in the air. But the rest of us, we watch the news, we watch the stories on social media, we see what's going on, and we can choose to watch the devastating stories, the destruction, the despair. We can choose to see the Sonei Yisrael. We can choose to focus on the villains and to get riled up about it and to say, how can it be that no one believes us? How could people be so blind? We can choose to focus on the villains. Or we can choose to focus on the heroes, the chesed that's going on, all of the incredible stories that we're watching or even a part of, if any of you are volunteering in any of these things, the compassion, the love, the kindness, the Yachad Ninatzeach, all of those incredible videos that literally bring me to tears. We can focus on the heroes, and we can focus on the heroes. How many videos of testimonies have you watched of people who reconnected to their Judaism in ways that they have never thought about once in their lives? Videos of these actors who say, I was born Jewish, but that's all I was. I was born a Jew. It never crossed my mind once before. But now I am starting to connect with my Judaism. I am starting to wear tefillin. How many people had bar mitzvahs at the age of 30, 40? How many people had a bris milah at the age of 30, 35, 40? Right? And someone asked me, is that painful? I said, I don't know. But when my son had his bris, he couldn't walk for a year. So, but yeah, it is. But that's the point. People are making these sacrifices for their Judaism because they're realizing, I am a Jew. I am a Jew. And we can focus on people twisting the narrative, which is going on all over social media, twisting the entire narrative and, calling the Jews the occupiers. The only land that the Jews ever occupied was Boca Raton, Florida. Okay, that's it. Or we can focus on the heroes. And that is our job. And that's part of my journey. I mentioned to you briefly that I was in 4 different high schools. And part of the reason for that is because there were people in my life, and I was an adventurous and energetic girl, and I was out of the box. And a lot of the schools didn't know how to deal with that and didn't want to learn how to deal with a student like that. Unfortunately, that was my reality. And they didn't believe in me. The people who should have protected me didn't protect me. The people who should have cared about me didn't care about me. And I could have focused on that, but I chose to focus on the people who did believe in me. And the first person, in addition to my parents, which, were definitely believed in me, but sometimes you need other people also outside of your family to believe in you. And the first person was a 16-year-old friend that I met in camp one summer who, and I didn't have a school to go to that summer because I had been kicked out of the school before and I still didn't have another school to go to. And she said to me, she met me that summer and she said to me, I don't understand. Any school would be so lucky to have you. So lucky to have you. And she said to me, do you understand? And she actually helped me. She was 16 years old. So was I. She was the same age as me. And she said things to me like, why don't you stop doing this and start doing this? Because this is who you really are. Why don't you stop behaving in a way that, maybe you're doing for attention and start doing things just based on who you are as a soul from the inside? Because I see how great you are. I see how wonderful you are. And that was mind-blowing to me. I was like, what? You see me for who I am inside? Nobody ever told me that. And that changed my entire life. And she helped me get into her school. She said, I'm calling my principal and I'm getting you into my school. And she did. And I had an amazing experience there, right? From a 16-year-old girl who said, I believe in you. And I could have decided to focus. The first school that I was kicked out of, I was 13 years old. And I was walking through the halls after I was already asked to leave for the following year. I'll get to your question in a second. After I was asked to leave for the following year, and I was walking in the hallway, and another principal, a different one, came over to me and said, oh, hi, Yaffa. I hear you're leaving our school for next year. And I said, yeah. And I thought she would look at me and say, okay, I wish you well. I hope you find the place that's right for you. And I wish you success in life. No, she looked at me and she said, I'm going to be happy to see you go. I was 13 years old. Okay. And I've had a few similar examples of that, all of the schools that kicked me out. And I could have focused on the villains. I could have focused on the people that hurt me and the people who didn't believe in me. But I made a decision that I was going to focus on the heroes. I was going to focus on the people who believed in me. And that's what I did. And I was able to turn my entire life around because of that. So we have that choice. The world has so much darkness. We know it does. But we don't have to focus on the darkness. We could focus on the light. They're both there simultaneously, the darkness and the light. And that's okay. But we get to choose, what am I going to focus on, the darkness or the light? And what I realized lately, since COVID, I have come to this realization that most people live in 2 different mindsets. We either live in a fixed mindset, or we live in a growth mindset. What do each of these mean? A fixed mindset is that mindset of, I am who I am. This is me, take it or leave it. This is the way I do things. There is no other way. This is the only way. This is the right way. I am fixed in my way of life. I am fixed in my thoughts, in my beliefs, in my philosophies. Fixed mindset. I'm sure we all know people who live in a fixed mindset. Then we have a growth mindset. A growth mindset is exactly the opposite. It's, this is what I always believed in. This is what I always thought was the truth, but you just said something that sounds a little bit truer. Maybe I can look into that a little bit. A growth mindset is, I want to be inspired by the people I meet, by the places I go to, by the things I hear. I want to grow more. I want to learn more. I want to understand more. A growth mindset means maybe this is the way I always did things, but it doesn't mean that's the only way to do things. You could be right too. That's a growth mindset. Now, I would make the assumption that every single one of you on here today is in a growth mindset, or you wouldn't be here. right? The fact that you said, I want to join this Nishmas group is because I want to be inspired. I want to learn more. I want to grow more. Now, the interesting thing about these two mindsets is that both anxiety and optimism have the same physiological response. They both require us to imagine something that hasn't happened yet, right? Both anxiety and optimism. I'll say it again. They have the same physiological response because they both require us to imagine something that hasn't happened yet. So if I have the ability to worry about the future, then I also have the ability to imagine a better one. Now, here's the thing. In both mindsets, in a fixed mindset and in a growth mindset, there are two words, the same two words, that when used in either mindset can have a vastly different result. And those words are, what if? What if used in a fixed mindset becomes all the things that might go wrong? What if used in a growth mindset becomes all the things that might go right? It's the same word, but it all depends how it's being used. And I'll give you an example, okay? Let's say somebody is dating a guy. All right, there's the first example that comes to mind. Someone's dating this guy and it's getting serious. And in her mind, that's it, right? They're going to get engaged next week. Like, she is in it and she feels that he's in it and she's all excited. And then out of nowhere, he decides to terminate the relationship. They broke up and that's it. And she is devastated, absolutely devastated. Now, someone in a fixed mindset, what is her response? Of course, she's devastated. And of course, she's brokenhearted. But then she continues to spiral downward. What if I never find the right person? What if nobody ever wants to marry me again? What if I never get married? What if I never have a family? What if I die alone with 12 cats? What if? The what if of anxiety. Then we have the same situation of someone who is in a growth mindset. She's dating this guy and it's serious and that's it. She thinks she's getting engaged next week. And all of a sudden, he terminates the relationship. They break up and she finds herself alone. And she has that same initial reaction. She's devastated. She's brokenhearted. That's fine. But then she decides to build instead of spiral downward. She goes upward. She grows upward. And her what if turns into a what if of possibility instead of a what if of anxiety, because she's able to say, what if this really wasn't the right guy for me, but I was so blinded by the things I liked about him that I didn't realize we would not have worked out in the long run. What if there's really somebody much better for me around the corner and I never would have found him had I would have held on to this relationship? Right? That's the what if of possibility. So we have the what if of anxiety and the what if of possibility. It's both the same word. All it is a different mindset. We can choose to spiral down into the what if of anxiety, or we can choose to elevate into the what if of possibility. And this goes for everything in our lives. We can look at the darkness in our lives. We can look at the things that are going wrong, or we can look at the light and we can look at the things that are going right. You know, we're frustrated sometimes because we go through disappointments. Things aren't always exactly the way we want them to be or exactly the way we thought they should be. And the problem with that is because we usually have a list. We go through life with a whole list of all the things that we want to happen. And this is going to happen at this age. And I'm going to have this amount of money and these amount of kids. And I'm going to own my home. And we have a whole list of everything we expect to happen. And then those things don't happen and we can get devastated. Or we can say, okay, that was my list. But does my list match God's list? Maybe not. Maybe God has a different list. And I need to make sure that my list matches Hashem's list, right? And that, we live sometimes, we have all these ideas of how we want life to be. And I'm going to end with this idea. So I want you to really, really take this to heart and remember this, okay? We live our lives with these plans, these lists, and we have a certain plan A in mind. Plan A, this is how things are going to be, and this is how I expect them to be. When I'm going to get married, what type of person I'll marry, how many kids I'm going to have, or what type my kids, or who my kids are going to end up being, and my job, and my money, and where we live, and blah, blah, blah. We have a whole plan A in our mind. And then raise your hand if you're above the age of 30, okay, 35 even. Raise your hand if you are not living your plan A life. Raise your hand. I think almost every person can raise their hand. Almost everyone, right? There are some people who might be living a plan A life, and that's the biggest bracha. But I see almost every single hand going up right now. We might be living a plan B, C, D. We got all the way to Z. We got so many different plans we could be living right now. And sometimes that could be devastating for people because we have a plan A in our minds. And if we don't end up living that plan A life, we feel like we came up short. We feel like we're living a deprived life. Why didn't I get the thing I wanted? This isn't how I expected it. This isn't how I planned it. This isn't how it should be. And we don't let ourselves live fully because we're not living the life that we expected to live. And here's what we need to understand. And I want you to listen so carefully to this. I want you to listen so carefully. What if the life that you are calling a plan B life is really Hashem's plan A? Because if this is the life that you are living, that means this is the life that Hashem chose for you individually to be your life, because Hashem decided this is your plan A life. This is your plan A. What we need to realize is that the life that I was calling a plan B life, my plan A never even existed. My plan A is completely irrelevant because if this is the life that I'm living, then this is in fact Hashem's plan A. So I might be calling it a plan B, but it's Hashem's plan A. So I need to flip the switch. I need to flip my mindset from thinking this is a plan B life to recognizing that no, this is actually a plan A life. It wasn't my list. It wasn't what I thought plan A was, but my plan A is irrelevant right now because this has become my plan A life since it's Hashem's plan A. Then that's our job. That's our mission. It's to be able to flip the mindset from the what if of anxiety to the what if of possibility. From thinking that I'm living a plan B life to realizing and to knowing that I am living a plan A life. And let me learn the new definition of plan A, because this is my plan A life. So let's leave this talk now understanding that this doesn't mean you don't have difficulties in life. This doesn't mean we don't struggle. This doesn't mean we don't have darkness. We do. But we could hold two emotions simultaneously, and then we get to choose which one navigates our lives. We can be scared and we can be brave. That's okay. But I want the brave side to navigate my life. We can have darkness in life and we can have light in life. That's okay. But I get to choose that I want the light to control my life, not the darkness. There could be villains in our lives. There could be heroes in our lives. That's fine. But we get to choose that we're going to follow the heroes. We're going to focus on the heroes and we're not going to focus on the villains. That's our choice. It's all about a mindset shift to decide what am I going to focus on. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. So thank you all so much for being here with me. It was so beautiful to start my morning off with all of you, and I love to see your beautiful faces. So again, I appreciate that you turned your cameras on. And thank you so much for inviting me, Nomi. This was a real big treat.
Yaffa, I just got to tell you, I think I speak for each one of us that you're just, first of all, you're such an inspiration when you speak. I cannot begin to tell you. like everything comes through. Like I don't even know how to express what I even want to say to you. How beautiful this was. How unbelievably intimately sharing it was, because I think we all feel those things that you speak about. How when you speak about them and how you transcended them, how it not only helps us to transcend, but also helps us to become better, not to be the heroes, to be those heroes for everybody else, right? To be those people that are going to, and I just got to share one thing with you. And someone just said that your authenticity, your what you did, it's like, so many people worry about their children. You ever watch the children you're most worried about become the greatest people in the world? If only the people that are around them in those years that mold them can understand that, we would live in a completely different world, because we would be seeing people's greatness. I just want to tell you, I don't know if you're familiar with Rebbetzin Tukachinsky. Everybody in this group knows that I'm obsessed with her. She runs this course called Sod Hadam. I've been taking it for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I heard about it.
And I just have to tell you something that she says exactly about what you say. She says that when a person leaves the world, right? And I think I've told this to everybody. I learned in the first year. The neshama is asked the question the minute it's about to leave the world. And it's asked the question, did you mamlich? Did you raise somebody else up in the world? Did you can say, show them who they really are, their greatness, right? So the Gemara says that if you did, that the neshama leaves the world like almost like a hair in milk, very, very gently. And if you didn't, it's almost leaving the world like thorns, right? So the question is asked, why is that the question that the neshama is asked right before it's leaving the world? It just makes me cry, just even repeating this to you. So it says that the reason it's asked that question is because it's the moment when the neshama faces real, true life, because it sees the truth of what life is. And when you mamlich another person in this world, when you show them their greatness of who they really are, you are giving them life. Why? Because that who you became is what you truly are. The fact that people showed you your greatness, right? The fact that people showed you what you really are is the truth. Because Yaffa, that is mamish. That is your life. That is your truth. That's your neshama. That is really who you are. Not all the things that we do or we act out or any of those things. But the truth is who we really are, what our greatness is.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's so unbelievable, because if we would all understand this and we would all show everybody who they really are, the light that people would be able to emanate of the truth, and even the reflection to God would be a whole different story.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for appreciating what I shared. And thank you all. I'm reading the chat now.
Very much. Thank you. Naomi, what was the question? I missed what was the actual question that the soul is asked?
The soul is asked, did you raise up another Jew in your life? Did you mamlich? Wow. Did you honor? Did you show
100%
real honor to another person? Meaning, did you raise another person up in the world?
Yeah.
And it's the ultimate. It's the 100%. Truth.
This is, I always teach about that concept when I teach about Tumah and Tahara. How, we understand Tumah and Tahara. By the way, I'm sorry, everybody. I see a lot of things coming into the chat and I want to read them. I'll read them in a second. Okay. When I teach about Tumah and Tahara, if anyone has a few more minutes, I'll be happy to share this with you. It's really a lot about that idea that
please share.
1 second. Go ahead. I'm just going to, if you can stay on mute, that would be great. People can stay on mute. Go ahead.
Okay, so the concept of Tumah and Tahara, which we translate to mean purity and impurity, which of course it triggers people sometimes, because understanding, and this specifically when it comes to women in Taras HaMishpacha, in family purity, we don't like to hear sometimes what it means to be tuma, to be tameh, to be impure. What do you mean? I'm so clean. How could you tell me I'm, we almost feel like it means dirty a little bit, but it's so much deeper than that. We're talking about a spiritual state, not a physical state. And when we talk about a spiritual and physical state of purity and impurity, we're talking about, deeper levels, of course, but I like to understand it also in a way that we can understand emotionally, not only spiritually, and understand what these states are all about. And that is that, what does it mean? What makes a person pure and impure? We know that the greatest force of life and the greatest source, the greatest force of purity and the greatest source of purity. Thank you all so much for all of your comments in the chat. I know a lot of people have to leave, so I want to make sure I thank you before you go. I'm reading the comments as they come in, but I'll click on them to see them. It means a lot to me that this resonated with you and that you appreciate it. Thank you so much. So the greatest force of purity in the world is life itself. And if the greatest force of life and the greatest source of of purity is life, then the greatest force and the greatest source of impurity would be a lack of life or a loss of life. And that's really what this concept, the spiritual state of purity and impurity come from, is that, if a person goes to a funeral, what do we do when we're at a funeral or at a cemetery? We have to wash our hands afterwards because we're in close proximity to a loss of life. When we wake up in the morning, we wash our hands, netilas yadayim, because when we were asleep, we were 1/60th dead. And now we have come back to life. We wash our hands. Water signifies that which purifies us. A lot of it because water is the only physical element that actually comes from heaven. So it's a physical element that has a spiritual component to it. So that purifies us. So all of these things, a woman, when she menstruates, that is, that's indicative of her, the losing of the loss of the potential for life. That's what it means when she menstruates. There could have been a life that month and there wasn't. Loss of potential for life. Now, when a woman gives birth, why is she in a state of spiritual impurity? You would think she just brought life into the world. It's the greatest source of purity. Why is she impure? Well, I think it's because while she brought life into the world and created an incredible amount of life, and of purity through that life in the world, she lost the life that was inside of her. There was a life that she was carrying for 9 months, and now it's not in her anymore. So she lost that life from within her. So now she entered into a state of spiritual impurity. Now, and by the way, I personally believe I am not a doctor and I am not a biologist and all the, I do all my polls and I get my data from Instagram polls, and that's how but I do believe that that part of what a woman experiences after birth, I'm not talking about any kind of extreme depression or anxiety postpartum that a woman experiences. I'm talking about the regular baby blues that most women experience a couple of days after birth, where we just feel a little down from that high that we were on after birth. I think that a lot of it comes from this spiritual impurity that we're experiencing, because the spirituality, that loss of the life we had inside of us, because the spiritual is connected to the physical and to the emotional. It's all connected. So I really believe that's what it comes from. Now, here's the thing. So we understand now bringing life. Nomi, you were talking about us. Yeah, I know, right? It's interesting, Hani. So this idea that you were saying about, how did you phrase it, Nomi? Did you give life to another did you raise somebody up, honor another person, right? This idea, how do we understand, let's say, a person who never has a child, a person who is unable to have a child or chooses not to have a child? Does that mean that they can't be a life force in this world, that they can't give life to another person and create purity in the world? If this is how we bring purity into the world, right? No, that doesn't mean that at all. This means that anyone at any point, or, if a person adopts and doesn't give birth, anyone can bring purity into the world, because and anyone can give life to anyone in this world, because it's not only about birthing another child. It is about creating life for another person. And that means anytime you build someone up, anytime you honor another person, anytime you compliment another person, the sign of growth, and this is why the mikvah is called the Mayim Chayim, which is the water that that's alive. It's a flowing water. It's not dormant. A bathtub water is dormant, and a person cannot become pure in a bathtub. They need to be in Mayim Chayim, in water that's alive, because purity is about bringing life to this world, to another person. When you make somebody feel good, when you honor, when you lift up another person, when you build someone up, you are creating life, you're creating purity. And people say often, well, what can I do? The world is crazy. Look at all the darkness. Look at all the craziness. Look at all the people that hate us. Look at all the wars. Look at everything that's going on. But there's nothing I can do. What can I do? I can't stop this. I can't change anything. Yes, you can. Yes, we can. Because the more purity we bring into the world, the more Hashem will respond to that purity. The way Hashem responds to life and to the world is directly related to what we put into the world. Hashem responds to our actions. So if we bring impurity into the world, that means if we are disunited or divided, right? If we knock other people down, if we judge others, if we speak Lashon Hara, if we make people feel bad about themselves, if we don't create that growth, that means we're creating a loss of life. We're not giving people that, what we call in Hebrew, chiyos, which is that life, that life energy that they need to thrive and to grow. We're taking it away from them if we don't give them that life energy. So that brings impurity into the world. And then Hashem has to respond with impurity. There's no other choice. And that means responding with a loss of life. And if we are able to bring purity into the world through building other people up and through honoring others and through loving others and through uniting with others and through complimenting other people, then we are putting so much more purity into the world. And then Hashem responds through that purity. So there is something we can do, and there's something huge that we can do. So I love that you mentioned that, Naomi, because it actually fits in so well to what we were talking about the different forces and the different mindsets that we could be a part of.
Wow, amazing.
Another thought came to me. Sorry, you were talking at the beginning. You know, Hamas, they all represent death. They do not value life.
Right.
Literally, not even in their own people. They're brutal to their own, even. Yeah. They'll murder them, they'll burn them, I don't even want to speak about it. It's on their own people.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
The Jewish people, if they're known, even if people don't like us, they know we value life.
Yeah.
We value life. We get, for one hostage, we'll give back 5,000. I mean, it's been all up, right? How we value life. So Absolutely. It's interesting, something about that. That's how we can say to Hashem, we're bringing purity. We may not be perfect, but we're bringing purity. We live for purity. We're serving you. We're really, right? Going on your ingredients and elements. And then I was thinking about the food when you said that. It came to me, maybe it'll be a soda because
yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, we have to think about
Mayim
Chayim, maybe. Okay. Definitely. We have to think about what it's going to be, because soon we're going to have a yontif and we're going to need that special food for that yontif. So we really have to think about it. I was joking, but not even completely joking about that, you know? So yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing that. Were there anything else? Any questions? I'm looking at the chat now.
One second, just before we continue with the questions. So we were going to launch the chain of unity. I don't know if people can stay on much longer. Exactly what Yaffa was talking about, actually creating Ahavas Yisrael around the world. I'm thinking as a group, maybe we should hold this off until Sunday. I don't know. It's already late here. I don't know how many more people can stay on to do this. So Yaffa, we'll take one or two questions, and then perfect. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment. This is Judith. Yeah, Judith from Staten Island, by the way. We had you here a couple of times. By Mindy, I'm going to remind you. We're going to get you back to Staten Island again.
Okay, with pleasure. I remember I came a couple of times.
Right. So the comment that I wanted to make was about But when you said that there are certain people that maybe cannot bring a new life into the war, but they can do other things. So Rabbi Israel Tauber, he wrote in one of his, he was 5 during the Holocaust, and he talks about it. So he wrote something in one of his farim, I don't remember in which one, that when you daven for somebody to have a child, but really, daven, and that person has a child, let's say, because somehow that is considered your child. And he says that after 120 Shana, when you come up, you might be surprisingly greeted by maybe hundreds, or whatever, because I don't know whether in which way, but kind of the kids that are born and you daven for them kind of are considered Jews. I had a friend that never had a child, and she was so comforted, by this idea, when I mentioned it to her. And, definitely it's another thing that we can do for those people.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's always about looking for the light.
I think Charlene wants to ask the question, and then we'll have Yaffa back again. Go ahead, Charlene.
With pleasure.
Hi, Yaffa, thank you so much for all you gave me today. But I want to tell you, you gave me now the courage to send your video to one of my kids who suffered in high school like you did. And I don't think she heard yet. So I want her to hear you, see you, and get results. So thank you a million times.
With absolute pleasure. With pleasure. I'm so happy that my story was able to inspire you in some way and give you the chizuk that you needed for that. There really is, there's always the courage. There's always hope. I mean, we're never, what I had said to myself back then, and I kept repeating it to myself as I got older. I said, no, I'm not going to let another person determine my reality. Just because somebody doesn't believe in me doesn't mean that that's true. Doesn't mean, another person's opinion of you does not determine your reality and does not determine the essence of who you are. Let people believe what they want to believe, but we know who we are. We know our strength. We know our souls. We know our essence. And we don't have to let another person decide and dictate what our future is going to be. We might not be responsible for the past. We might, sometimes we had no control over what happened in our past, but we could absolutely take control for what happens in our future, right? That's up to us. So I'm so happy to hear that was helpful to you. Okay, and I wish a lot of hatzlacha to your child. And by the way, I'm reading in the chat now. Somebody said, "Thank you, Hani, for writing that the what if regarding shidduchim really helped you. You're going to share it with your daughter who's in the parsha." Yeah, it's going to be such an important mindset to have. I have 3 daughters in shidduchim right now, so I definitely use this mindset a lot regarding that. And also, Chaya Razel, thank you so much. She wrote, "Thank you so much. Your sense of humor is amazing with such great delivery. I appreciate that." And then she wrote, "Thank you for making me laugh and cry at the same time." That was cute. I like that because you were talking about the 2 opposing emotions. So thank you for that. That means so much to me, everyone, that you really appreciated everything. Interesting thoughts. Loss of life from life inside makes sense. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. I'm just seeing if there's any questions in here.
Where do you live now?
I live in Miami, on the outskirts of Aventura. If you're familiar with the city.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I've been around a lot. I moved around a lot, but now we're here, and hopefully till Mashiach comes, which means tomorrow maybe moving there. That would be nice. Make room. Here we come.
Aventura.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Oh, somebody wrote here how to contact
unbelievable.
me.
It was mamish unbelievable. Thank you so much. This was
pleasure.
amazing.
Some people asked how to contact me. You can reach out to Naomi. She'll tell you how to contact me. Okay.
Okay. Yaffa, thank you.
Yes.
You're
Thank
really.
you so much.